Join us as we explore this quaint coastal town, learn about its famous geologist, discover 2 historic churches, and find out why I got sent to jail.
Hello, I'm Ellie.
I'm Martin.
And today we've come to the lovely seaside town of Cromarty.
On the Black Isle.
It is, and it's very beautiful, and there's lots to do here, so come with us and we'll come and explore.
Hope you enjoy.
Cromarty sits on the Black Isle and is a popular tourist destination. There is limited parking, but you can usually find a space along the front or down one of the side streets. We parked near the headland and we were rewarded with this fantastic view. These headlands form a bottleneck at the entrance to the Cromarty Firth. They are called the Sutors, the Scots name for shoemaker. Legend says that 2 giants, who were themselves shoemakers, used the headlands as workbenches and would toss their tools to each other across the firth. Thousands of birds nest on these headlands, and you can also see bottlenose dolphins, porpoise and seals swimming in the firth and around the harbour area. The Cromarty Firth was an anchorage for naval fleets from the 1860s and throughout the First World War. A new concrete pier was added in 1914 to serve the Navy. The pier and the historic harbour are listed monuments. On the 30th of December 1915, HMS Naval caught fire and capsized in the Firth. A wreck buoy now marks the spot where the ship went down. To this day, whenever a Royal Naval vessel enters or leaves the harbour, they sound the still as a mark of respect for the 421 naval officers and crew who perished in the disaster.
The bay is pretty much enclosed by land all the way around it, so it's very easy to find. Today it's used for decommissioning oil rigs, the Navy used it for excavating. Hello.
You pitch my line off the board.
Cool.
That's my line.
Just behind me there is a memorial. Memorial? Don't know if that's the right word. It's been erected to remember all the people who left Cromarty in their droves in search of a new life in the New World, and the New World being Canada and North America.
The lighthouse was built in 1846. It's now a field station for Aberdeen University's marine biologists. The Hugh Institute building was presented to the town by the Carnegie Institute in 1903. It is named after the famed Scottish geologist and writer Hugh Miller, who was born in Cromarty in 1802. It houses the local library. St Regula's Church dates to the late 17th century. It was used as the private burial grounds of the lairds of Cromarty. The site contains some elaborate memorials from the late 1600s and early 1700s. Some of them feature the carved cross, sceptre and spade, a symbol of equality in death. Also here is the last stone carved by Hugh Miller, which commemorates the death of his infant daughter. The church we see here today began as a mission in the 1870s. The foundation stone of this church was laid in 1904, and the building was completed in 1906. It was dedicated to St Regulus on receipt of a generous legacy. The beautiful stone altar in the sanctuary is adorned with a cross and 6 candlesticks. This window above the east altar has the resurrection in the centre, the nativity on the left, and the Lord's baptism on the right. These 2 memorial windows are by Sir Ninian Comper. One depicts the risen Lord with his followers, the other St Francis of Assisi with animals at his feet. These beautiful windows here in the Lady Chapel depict the 4 seasons. St Regulus was a monk who lived in the city of Patras in present-day Greece, in what was then part of the Roman Empire. In AD 345, he dreamt that an angel had told him that Emperor Constantine was going to invade Patras, and that he should remove St Andrew's relics from Patras to Constantinople for safekeeping. En route with St Andrew's relics, Regulus was shipwrecked on the shores of Fife at Kilrimont, a Pictish settlement which is now St Andrews. It's claimed that Regulus brought with him 3 fingers of the saint's right hand, the upper bone of an arm, 1 kneecap, and 1 of his teeth. Hugh Miller is one of Scotland's most famous geologists, and he has been described as Victorian Britain's greatest mind. The museum is dedicated to his life and the prehistoric worlds he discovered. On display are the fossils he found, the tools he used, and the manuscripts he wrote. Born in 1802, he was a renowned fossil hunter and a folklorist, writing stories about giants, witches, and mermaids, but he started as a stonemason. He was a dedicated man of faith and a strong advocate for the reform of the Church of Scotland, and a campaigner for social justice. He became the editor of the evangelical newspaper The Witness, which he edited until his untimely death in 1856. As a campaigner for social justice, he was an important figure in Victorian Scotland. He loved people, and they loved him too. Many thousands lined the streets of Edinburgh to pay their respects at his funeral. You could say Hugh Miller was one of the great Scots of the 19th century. His quests for knowledge and his writings have left a huge inspirational legacy. This fine Georgian townhouse, which houses the museum, is where Hugh lived with his wife. It was built in 1797 by Hugh's father. Behind the museum is the very small but beautiful award-winning Garden of Wonders, which contains 6 mystery objects that Hugh would have advised you to make a right use of your eyes to see if you could find them.
This is the cottage that Hugh Miller was born in and lived in, and it is the only thatched cottage left in Cromarty.
Next to the museum is the cottage where Hugh Miller was born. It is laid out as close to how it would have been when he lived there. This beautifully restored thatched cottage was originally built in the 1700s by Hugh's great-grandfather, who, it is said, was a pirate. John Geddes is rumoured to have paid for the construction of the house with silver and gold looted from Spanish galleons. They were, like most people who lived on the coast, a fishing family. The hanging lum was used to smoke and preserve fish. Most of the original furniture was sold by Hugh's family after his death, but it has been restored and refurnished with items faithful to those used in the 18th century when the cottage was built.
I've been smoking fish this morning. Fish for tea.
Just an old fishwife.
Outside is a cobbled area and a terrace garden in which there is a sundial pedestal that was carved by Hugh himself. The East Church has been described as of exceptional interest and ranks among the finest examples of its type in Scotland. It is significant because of its ecclesiastical heritage. The East Church is Category A listed and is situated within a B listed walled graveyard in an area designated as an outstanding conservation area. It's known to have had an association with Sir Thomas Urquhart in the 1600s. After the Reformation in 1560, it was expanded, and the north aisle was added in the 1730s. The interior is fascinating. There are box pews dating from the 18th and 19th centuries, which have been made from reused painted panels. In fact, most of the furnishings are complete and authentic to the building. There are 3 galleries, also known as lofts, which date back to the 18th century. In the north loft, you can clearly see the painted initials of the pew holders. There are also fragments of an early 18th century pew panel bearing the arms of the Laird Sir Kenneth Mackenzie and his wife. Other points of interest are a 19th century session house built over the tomb of the Anderson family, which has a finely carved memorial tablet, a memorial plaque to the great eccentric Sir Thomas Urquhart of Cromarty, who lived from 1611 to 1660, a painted funeral hatchment to 18th century Laird George Ross, and the original wooden pegs on which hats and bonnets were hung. The graveyard contains a number of memorials carved by geologist Hugh when he was a stonemason in Cromarty.
Are you really taking me to court over saying hello?
Oh, yes, you pinched my line. Theft is a court case.
The 18th century courthouse is a Grade A listed building and is the home of the Museum of Cromarty. Its collections, exhibitions and learning zone provide a fascinating insight into the past, present and future of this unique part of Scotland. Step through the door and come face to face with a tough Highland justice, but be warned, he may put you on trial for the most trivial thing and send you to jail. Behind the courthouse is Cromarty's community orchard garden. It is maintained by members of the community. The courthouse was built in 1771 with money forfeited from landowners who had supported the Jacobite risings. It was described as a handsome and imposing building which represented a borough of dignity and law enforcement. Attitudes to prisoners changed in the mid-1800s, and it was refurbished to include 3 new cells, an exercise gallery, accommodation for the jailer and his family, and a new heating system. Cromarty's economy and its population declined in the 1860s, and by 1879 the courthouse had ceased to be used as a county prison. The cells were used during the First World War by the Naval Shore Patrol, and the last sheriff court took place in the 1930s. The rarely used building had become cold and damp, and more importantly, it didn't have electricity. Work to refurbish it and turn it into a museum started in the 1980s, and the building opened in 1991, and in the same year it won the prestigious Scottish Museum of the Year award. Around the museum you will hear the soundtracks of people talking, and in the court itself you can hear the narrative of 2 trials. These soundtracks lend a sense of period authenticity and make an interesting dimension to the museum, as it instills a sense of being involved in the historic tales they are telling. Earlier in the day, Martin had accused me of stealing his hello, and has said that the matter could only be settled in court. So, my husband, no less, put me on trial for theft.
For the crime of theft, how do you plead?
Aye, I had set my neighbour up, seized them by the coat skirts.
Not
And
guilty.
therefore said that boldly of wrestle
Baker up Winston isn't ironed. Do you understand?
I find you guilty. 10 years hard labour.
Why, sir, that's as though they get sir. None more. They said as how long procession of the old drop to the courthouse.
I've been framed.
My morals haven't given me patience. In the face of such ingrate scum.
We will let your punishment
Hands thrown back in my face. Get on with it,
as a
then,
kiss
Barnes.
later.
They said then as how you had brought unwelcome
progress in Cromarty is quite breathtaking, Ross.
Kiss.
and there's more, sir.
I'd rather be
How
found
you
guilty.
brought hither tea drinking, gin swilling.
So that's me out on licence now. I have to owe you a kiss, don't I?
Yes.
Anyway, we really hope you've enjoyed your little walk around Cromarty.
Yeah. It's a nice day again.
Yeah, and it's been very interesting.
Mhm.
Lots of things to do as well. Thanks ever so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.